Mr. President, we're on the, as I indicated, the Paycheck Fairness Act, and we'll have that cloture vote at 2:30 today. Most Americans believe if they get an education, they work hard and play by the rules, they'll have a fair shot at success. But for millions of American women, no amount of talent or dedication will bring pay equality with their male co-workers. In the minds of many employers, they simply aren't equal. Women take home 77 cents for every dollar their male colleagues earn for doing exactly the same work. That stunning fact holds true regardless of whether a woman has a college degree, regardless of how many hours she spends in the office each week, or on some manufacturing floor, regardless of what job she holds. The 77 cents applies. But, Mr. President, listen to this. If she's an African-American woman or a Hispanic woman, the disparity is even starker. African-American women make 62 cents on the dollar, and Hispanic women 54 cents on the dollar, compared to white men working the same hours and doing the same jobs. Not different jobs, the exact same jobs. If you're Hispanic and you're a woman, you get about half as much as the man doing the same job. If you're African American, you get about 60 cents compared to every dollar that man makes. And while landmark pieces of legislation, like the Equal Pay Act and the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, have narrowed the pay gap, they haven't closed the gap. And that's obvious by these numbers that I just announced to the Senate. So Congress must do more. This act before the Senate would give workers stronger tools to combat wage discrimination. Now, Mr. President, one of the tools of retaliation that employers have is they fire workers if they discuss how much they make with another worker. Our legislation would bar retaliation against workers for discussing salary information. Why do we have this in the bill? Well, the landmark legislation we had to pass it because the Supreme Court ruled against Lilly Ledbetter. Lilly Ledbetter is a woman who worked in Alabama for many, many years. And she didn't know that she was being paid far less than her male counterparts who did the same work. And so when she learned this, she filed a lawsuit, and the Supreme Court said, sorry, Lilly, you didn't file it in time. The statute of limitations has run, meaning that you have to file within a certain period of time. Well, we have many different places in the law where you do not start tolling the statute until you learn something's wrong. For example, we had to go back on medical malpractice cases where people were treated negligently by physicians, but the poor patient didn't realize this till long after, usually, for example, in the state of Nevada, it's a 2-year statute had run. So we changed that almost every place in the country. And we need to make sure that people understand, in this instance, now that we've passed the Lilly Ledbetter legislation, that the time doesn't start running until you learn that you're being cheated. So our legislation would bar retaliation against workers for discussing salary information, and it would help secure adequate compensation for victims of gender-based pay discrimination. Take the state of Nevada. Over their lifetimes, Nevada women will earn about $475,000 less than their male counterparts, about $500,000. But this isn't just an issue for women, it's a family issue. Why? Because every year, millions of American families are cheated out of money they could spend on groceries, rent, and gas. Every year, wage discrimination puts almost 400,000 Nevada children at risk. For many families in Nevada and across the country, a woman is the only income generator in that family. For many more women, that person is the primary breadwinner. Yet, Republicans have vowed to block this legislation. It's in all the news today. Every headline news talks about this bill coming up today. And the Republicans saying they're going to vote against it because it creates too much bookwork. They've vowed to block legislation that would even the playing field and help women provide for their families, even though Americans overwhelmingly support this legislation. 9 out of 10 Americans, including 81% of men, 70% of Republicans, support pay equity legislation. Once again, The only Republicans who are against our common sense measure are the ones that are in Congress in Washington. Even Mitt Romney has refused to publicly oppose this legislation. He may oppose it, but he's afraid to say anything about it. Why? Because it's obvious why. He should show some leadership, my opinion, Governor Romney, and tell his fellow Republicans that opposing fair pay for all Americans is shameful. Instead, no one knows where he stands. But we know where Democrats stand. Everyone knows. We stand firmly on the side of equality for every working woman. Democrats stand with middle-class women working to keep their families afloat during these difficult times. We stand with young women pursuing a college education, hoping to get a good-paying job when they graduate. We stand with little girls whose mothers have taught them there's no limit to their dreams. And this evening, Americans will see where Republicans stand on this issue. It's unfortunate they'll once again favor obstruction over equality.